Ronald Reed spent his entire life working as a gas station attendant and a janitor in rural Vermont. When he passed away in 2014, he left behind an $8 million fortune that stunned his family, his neighbors, and the local community. His neighbors had no idea he was rich, assuming he lived hand-to-mouth in his tiny, quiet house and drove a beat-up car. Ronald didn't have a high salary, an inheritance, or a lucky stock tip, but he knew a secret about the human brain and wealth that most high-earning Wall Street professionals completely ignore. What Ronald possessed was a psychological advantage discovered in a landmark study by researchers David T. Neal and Winnie Wood at the University of Southern California. Today, you'll discover how to build wealth easily by bypassing your brain's natural reliance on daily willpower. We'll break down the 2 lazy habits that predict long-term wealth according to the latest clinical psychology, and the last one is the exact reason most hardworking, high-income people never escape this. By the end of this, you'll see why discipline is actually a trap. Most people believe financial freedom requires heroic daily discipline, sleepless nights, and extreme deprivation. But Winnie Wood's research at USC proved something shocking. When our mental energy is completely drained, we don't rely on willpower at all. Instead, our brains automatically default to deeply ingrained, reflexive habits, whether those habits are good or bad. This means trying to force yourself to save money using sheer willpower is a statistical trap that you are biologically guaranteed to lose when you are tired or stressed. To understand why willpower fails us, we have to look at a tiny, critical structure in the brain called the anterior midcingulate cortex. Dr. Andrew Huberman highlights that this brain region actually grows when we force ourselves to do something we actively hate. But here is the catch. It only fires up during hard, novel challenges, not reflexive habits. If you rely on this high-friction brain area to manage your daily money decisions, you will eventually burn out, experience decision fatigue, and spend everything you have saved. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The truly wealthy don't run their lives on these high-friction, exhausting mental battles. Instead, they exploit a cognitive loophole that psychologists call the anti-willpower loop. This system automates the hard decisions, letting laziness and automation work in their favor. To understand how this works, we have to look at a simple habit loop studied extensively at Yale, MIT, and Brown by neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer, which reveals how our brains get stuck and how to get unstuck. The first unglamorous habit of this loop is the ability to tolerate pure, unadulterated boredom without abandoning the task. In a digital world optimized for cheap dopamine hits and instant gratification, consistency has become incredibly boring. According to Fidelity's research on wealthy Americans, 37% of them said that saving from a young age was essential, while 40% attributed their financial success to strategic, highly repetitive investing. They didn't chase exciting, volatile tech stocks or overnight crypto trends. They bought the same boring assets month after month. When an average investor sees their portfolio do absolutely nothing for 6 months, their brain screams for excitement. They get itchy fingers, sell their long-term assets, and chase a shiny new trend they saw on social media. But the self-made rich understand that true wealth accumulation behaves like watching paint dry or grass grow. It is a slow, monotonous grind that yields massive compounding results only after years of total, boring silence. To win, you must stay uncomfortable for longer than feels reasonable. Dr. Judson Brewer's research shows that our brains crave a simple cycle, a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. When we feel bored with our sluggish finances, the trigger is discomfort, the behavior is checking our accounts or buying something new, and the reward is a temporary dopamine spike. To break this, we must reprogram the loop using a mindfulness technique called RAIN: recognize, accept, investigate, and non-identify. This allows us to sit with the boredom of slow investing without acting on impulsive desires. But managing boredom is only half of the equation. There is a second, even more stubborn habit that acts as the ultimate wealth predictor, and it involves a classic psychological experiment that most people completely misunderstand. You've likely heard of the famous Stanford marshmallow test, where children were left alone in a room with a single treat. If they could wait 15 minutes without eating it, they were promised a second one as a reward. The children who waited went on to have higher incomes, better health, and greater financial security later in life. But recent behavioral science reveals that this wasn't a test of raw willpower or mental toughness. It was actually a test of trust and environmental design. The kids who waited didn't just stare at the marshmallow. They actively distracted themselves, closed their eyes, or turned their chairs around. They designed an environment where temptation was completely invisible to them. But this next study broke my brain. Researchers found that if a child believed the adult in the room was unreliable or dishonest, they ate the marshmallow immediately. In other words, delayed gratification isn't a genetic trait. It's a belief that the future reward is actually guaranteed to arrive. If you don't trust your financial future, or if you believe the system is rigged, your brain will force you to spend your money today on instant comfort. So, how do we apply this trust to build wealth easily without relying on fragile willpower? The answer lies in complete strategic automation of your finances. Instead of deciding to save 5% of your paycheck every month, you must remove the decision entirely. You set up automatic transfers from your checking account directly into a diversified investment account on the exact day you get paid. You never see the money in your main account, so your brain never has to fight the temptation. This automation aligns perfectly with what financial analyst Lynn Alden discovered in her research on wealth generation. The most successful investors don't try to time the volatile market or pick individual winning stocks like Bill Gates, whose extreme wealth was heavily influenced by unique historical luck and systemic outliers. Instead, they diversify. They spread their money across a wide basket of global assets, ensuring that even if one sector slumps, the overall wealth machine keeps grinding forward without manual intervention. Remember the USC study on habits overriding goals when willpower is low? By automating your investments and tolerating the boredom of index funds, you turn wealth creation into a reflexive, low willpower habit. You completely bypass the decision fatigue that drains your mental energy every single day. You don't need a massive salary, exceptional talent, or lucky breaks. You just need to set up the loop and let your natural laziness do the heavy lifting in the background. Starting today, log into your banking portal and automate just $50 a month into a low-cost, diversified index fund. Let that boring machine run in the background while you focus on living your life. If you want to master the psychological loops that govern your money and your mind, hit the subscribe button to join us for the next breakdown. The easiest way to build wealth is to stop trying so hard.